Hi everybody, welcome back to my Spotify OCs project where I take one song from my Spotify Wrap 2025 and turn it into an original character. This week for song number 31 we have Sabbath Prayer from The Fiddler on the Roof. Fiddler on the Roof is a musical based on a book about Jewish diaspora living in Russia, actually technically in the Ukraine by modern day borders, but this episode is going to be very politically charged in ways that I don't intend it to be. But anyways, Fiddler on the Roof is adapted from a novel set in turn-of-the-century Russia among Jewish diaspora living there, and just kind of the day-to-day challenges of religion and tradition versus modernity, religious persecution, ethnic persecution. It's one of my favorite movies ever. I really love it. I think it's beautiful, just the way that it portrays struggle and the way that it portrays family. And Sabbath Prayer is a really soothing song. A Sabbath tradition is to light a candle and to say a blessing over your household. So Sabbath Prayer, the song, takes that ritual and that tradition and makes it into a part of the musical. And in the musical, it is an expression of the parents' love, Reb Tevye and Goldie, towards their daughters, that God would be favorable to them, that he would look after them, that he would set them up with a good life and make them honorable. It's just very sweet and very soothing. It just makes me really emotional. I listen to it when I need to calm down. My character inspiration that I'm drawing out of this is kind of a journey. I wrote that it is ultimately an expression of parental love and can appeal to the loving kindness of God. I looked at family-oriented creatures. I know we think about like wolves live in packs. Elephants are very intelligent. They form friendships and bonds and they visit the grave sites of their dead. But I kept thinking about birds. Birds are a lot like that. I work with birds at a nonprofit, which I already filmed part of this video and I mentioned that redundantly there, so I'm sorry. I kind of want to implement something about birds. And then also the origin of the Sabbath is literally from the beginning of time. In Christian canon and in Jewish canon, you look at the 6 days of creation and the 7th day of pause, of rest, and that is the basis for the Sabbath and why God institutes it. Even in Genesis 1:1, it says that the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And the imagery here and the language here harkens directly to a bird. There's specific behaviors that ancient Jewish people observed in rock doves, and we're like, that is what the Spirit of God is like. Domestic pigeons are descended from these rock doves, and so I think it might be cool to make a character who's a pigeon keeper. So for our pigeon keeper, maybe he's got this flock of birds that he cares for in like a protective role. But then maybe he's just old enough to like begin to go out and maybe get married and strike out on his own. So he's got like his parents that he's about to be leaving. So I don't know if that's too much of a stretch. I just kind of want it to be inspired by the musical as a whole and not just the song. I did kind of wrestle, is it exploitative to base a character off of a prayer? But I think because it's a prayer about family and a blessing over a family, I just thought it would be cool to kind of explore, like maybe make a character in the Fiddler on the Roof universe, if you will. That is where we're headed today. So in my little sketch, I kind of drew him with a vest and a shirt. And then I looked at images from Fiddler on the Roof, and that is what Reb Tevye is wearing. So part of me wants to go with something different so he's not the same, but then I also think a lot about Patsu, the character from Castle in the Sky, who also keeps doves. I just think he's a fun character. I really enjoy that movie, and I think he and Sheeta are a lot of fun to watch. So I like the idea of keeping that as like a nod to just like how a pigeon keeper might look. It feels practical to have a vest of some kind because you can take it off if you don't want it to get dirty, or you can use it to protect the front of your shirt or whatever. I don't need to explain to you how a vest works, you know. So I like the idea of giving him kind of a flowing, soft outfit. I like the big sleeves because it's kind of like wings. Another thing I should probably do is look up how pigeon hutches look. I know it's not called a hutch, it has like a bespoke name, but I don't remember what that is either. I've talked about my work a little bit. I do work with birds at like a nonprofit as like a volunteerism thing. So you'd think I would know all the bird words, but this is sadly not the case. I think that's also why there have been so many birds in my character lists so far, because I just am around them a lot. But they are really cool animals, and it's really cool that we get to have birds around all over the planet in our day-to-day lives. A lot of my life has been spent ignoring birds or like really kind of taking them for granted, but it's so neat to have such beautiful variety and such different creatures that are just there. So I've got kind of this coop with sliding doors here. There's like an internal, like a lip to keep the wood shavings out. This is just how I would build a pigeon coop if I had one. I give a lot of my male characters a longer face. I'd like to give this one sort of a shorter face, more compact. And he is wearing a little kippah. I'd like his hair to look a little bit messed up. I would imagine that the birds are always fluttering around and like creating air currents. And if your hands are like dirty from mucking something out or from just like you've been touching a bird, you don't necessarily want to touch your face and your hair a whole bunch. I know that like you get used to animals as you work with them, but I don't know. I think cleanliness is important. I don't know about the fastenings on this vest. It's probably not a zipper vest. In my head, he lives around the time of Fiddler on the Roof, which I read takes place in 1905, so like, that's a while ago. I would imagine it is buttons on the vest. You can only erase colored pencils so much. That looks a little better though. I never know what to do with people's hands. This is a problem I have when I'm being photographed as well. I never know what to do with my hands, which is not unique to me. I think most people in the world don't know what to do with their hands. If you're not actively using them, they're just kind of cumbersome. I'm kind of trying to think of how to get the parental aspect back into this, which isn't necessary. Like, I feel like I haven't abstracted the song too much in terms of how I'm taking it, but I think it's probable if he's living in like 1905, he seems pretty young. Either he just got married or he's just about to get married, so he's probably still living with his parents. I think there's probably not a lot of money tied up in pigeon tending. So maybe this is more of a hobby for him and he's a farmer and pigeons are just some of the sort of livestock that he keeps. But you know what? If it's 1905, then we've got two big wars ahead. Pigeons were actually, you probably have heard it before because it's becoming more popular to actually acknowledge the monumental contribution pigeons have made to human society and development. But pigeons were huge for war efforts in terms of getting messages sent. There's obviously the story of Cher Ami, who was a messenger pigeon who flew through heavy fire and took multiple bullet hits and kept going because some French soldiers were in a trench and their own allies were firing on them without realizing, like, oh, like, this is our guys in the trench over there. They thought it was the Germans. And so they sent Cher up and, like, were just kind of hoping against hope that he'd reach the guys that were firing on them before they were all dead. And he did. And this bird took multiple bullet wounds. I don't think he ever could fly again after that. Like, the bird pushed itself to the limits just to get to the other trench that the fire was coming from to say, like, hey, cease fire. You're hitting your own. There's another bird, another pigeon that was used in World War I who had kind of a similar story where he had to fly through heavy enough fire that he developed trauma from it. Like, birds can get PTSD. And so he couldn't do it anymore. He couldn't be, like, used in combat. But they noticed that he had, like, a very protective and caring way about him towards the other birds that were also kind of shell-shocked. And so they would have him just live with these other birds that had to be retired from the front lines because he was really, like, therapeutic and calming for them. It's just really sweet. I don't like war. I don't like that we use animals to fight wars. But it is also at the same time, like, it's really easy to be dismissive of heroism and to be like, well, we shouldn't have war, we should be pacifists. Like, I think that's absolutely true, but like, if a person or an animal went into war and was brave and saved its companions, then you need to, like, honor that. So anyways, I think there are some big opportunities in the pigeon keeping industry for this guy in about 3 years, if he can keep his head on his shoulders, unfortunately. This episode's artist inspiration is the writer and illustrator Jamie Whitbread. Jamie is a wizard with colored pencils. I really enjoy their art of horses and unicorns, as well as dragons. They have a lot of really cute unicorn designs that are kind of Paleolithic in nature, with the horn further down on the snout, so it's between the eye and the nose instead of up on the forehead. They have like a very impressionistic style with the way that they illustrate with their colored pencils, and I just really enjoy the use of color and texture in their work. They do have some children's books that they've made, which is really cool. I think it would be really fun to illustrate a children's book someday. And I love just the beauty of their illustrations. It reminds me of like Beatrix Potter. I really like it when people don't make lazy art for kids just because they're kids. So Jamie Whitbread is an awesome artist. I will link their website in the description. They also have Instagram and other social media that is linked on the website already. So go give them a look, give them a follow. And there's a little message canister. I think it's interesting how we just kind of dangle the canisters from their feet. Like, it doesn't seem very aerodynamic, but they're fine. It could be that every depiction I've ever seen is not accurate. That could be it. You would be surprised how little research and preparation goes into these videos. Or maybe you wouldn't. Maybe you're watching these and you're like, yeah, I can tell. I can really tell. That's also possible. I think a kindly birdman would make everybody's life a little nicer. Again, kind of a long meandering route that we took to get here, but I'm happy with him. And I do feel like I'm getting a lot more confident in drawing people. So that'll be it for this week.